And joining us from New Orleans to talk a little bit about what's going down with the Saints, it is Katherine Terrell from The Athletic, who last time we chatted had narrowly avoided being mauled by a bear. I hope in the interim weeks since we've talked to you from Seattle, Katherine, that you haven't had any more near-death experiences. You okay?
Yeah, I haven't seen a bear since September, so I'm feeling pretty good.
Hey.
Feeling great about myself and my chances of living. Yeah, I think it's great.
No, you haven't seen a bear, but no other apex predators out there, a random jaguar or, rougarou. I mean, you are in South Louisiana, so the rougarou is always a danger.
I saw a roach in my apartment a few weeks ago. I don't know if that counts.
Well, just know that roach will be alive longer than any of us will. So,
great.
All right, Katherine.
Look forward to that.
Yeah, it's exactly. They'll inherit the earth. They're the meek. All right, Katherine. Let's talk about. Speaking of things going wrong right now, you've got the Saints and the defensive line starting to be beset by injuries. Luckily, it's a position they've gotten very, very deep at, but that depth is going to be tested a little bit. Give us the update on Davenport and Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah, honestly, I think both of them are expected to be done for the season. Not what anyone wants to hear, but pretty much where they're at right now. I would be very surprised if Rankins figures out how to come back this season. I think he's done. So basically, they're going to have to go to the depths of their depth on the defensive line, I guess. Shy Tuttle, who had a great play against the Falcons. Mario Edwards, that's kind of where we're at right now. It's a huge blow, but they're just going to have to figure out where to go from here.
Is it fair to, at this point so early in his career, kind of stick that injury-prone label on Sheldon Rankins? I mean, I hate to do it, but he has dealt with a lot of injuries for being so young in his career.
No, I don't think so. I think every one of his injuries were very different. Obviously, the Achilles is something that couldn't be helped. This is a completely different injury on a different leg than the Achilles. I think it's something that's probably been bothering him a while and kind of got worse during the San Francisco game. So, I don't know. I can see why people would want to do it, but I'm not kind of ready to put that label on him quite yet.
And tell us about Davenport's injury.
I don't know as much about his injury. I know that it's a foot injury. I was reading Ian Rappaport's tweets. I think he said it's a Liz Frank injury, which is never a good thing. Definitely season-ending. I guess we're just going to have to hope he'll be healthy next year. It's really a shame because I think he was definitely coming along just like they wanted him to towards the end of the season. So I hate seeing that for him, and I hate seeing that for Rankins.
And I would imagine the guy that hates it more than both of us is Cam Jordan, because now he'll definitely see more double teams. He'll definitely get more attention because there's no one on the other side like a Davenport who can get back there and really cause the kind of havoc he does. I've got to imagine Jordan's going to be the guy that now, I guess, receives the lion's share. Not that he wasn't already getting all the attention anyway, because he's the best D lineman you've got, but I've got to imagine this is going to be something that's going to definitely be a detriment to him, I would think.
I definitely think that it hurts the defensive line as a whole. I think that they're going to see a huge drop-off in sacks over the next few weeks. And that, how that goes, that affects the secondary. It kind of affects everyone. It's a trickle-down thing. So the Saints have a lot more work ahead of them now that they have so many injuries. But, yeah, I don't see Cam Jordan getting to that mythical 20 sacks he hopes he could get to. Definitely going to be harder on him now that these players are out.
Talking to Katherine Terrell from The Athletic down in New Orleans. One other injury that I don't know if anybody's mentioned it. I haven't read a ton of stuff in the last couple of days, but one of the things I noticed was in that, I guess it was the second to last touchdown drive, Brees got blitzed, got hit pretty hard, ball went straight up in the air, came down. Luckily, no one intercepted it. But from then on, he was rubbing his right bicep a lot. He seemed to be concerned with that right upper arm. Has there been any talk about what's going on there?
There hasn't. I'm not really sure what's going on with him. That's something we're going to have to ask tomorrow. But, yeah, it is something to monitor for sure. I mean, I did notice that too. Not a good thing for sure, but I'll ask Brees about it specifically tomorrow. They're kind of on a different schedule because they have a Monday night game, but not ideal. Hopefully it's nothing serious. I do remember the last time we noticed something like that a few years back. He had like a rotator cuff bruise that ended up making him miss a game. I guess at minimum, if it is serious, Teddy Bridgewater's done a good job, but I'm going to hope that it's likely not.
Yeah, I'm curious. Have you noticed? This is just something I've seen in the last couple of years. It really feels like Brees doesn't throw the ball downfield much anymore, and I don't know that they call a lot of shot plays like they used to, where they max protect and send someone downfield and let him try to take a shot. But really, with the exception of the two deep overs that he got to Michael Thomas late in the game, Brees doesn't really seem to push the ball downfield a whole lot.
Well, I think he tried the other week, and I saw at least 3 downfield shots to Ted Ginn that weren't connecting for whatever reason. I know one of them was nowhere near him, but at least 2 of them hit him in the hands.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Ted Ginn's not catching them. I don't know who else is going to stretch the field. I think there's times Brees looks like he can't throw it downfield, and there's times he doesn't, and he looks just fine. So it's kind of hard to decipher with him, but it's definitely a valid concern. I don't think it's something they can do consistently well anymore. And, it's not going to prevent them from winning, but it is a detriment to their offense, I think. But, against the Niners, they had some good downfield plays.
Yeah,
so,
I'm telling you, the two late throws to Thomas, which they weren't super downfield shots, but they were in that kind of 25 to 30 yard range. Those were two of the prettiest balls you've ever seen thrown downfield. I mean, they were gorgeous, right on the money to Thomas. So it's not like he doesn't still have it. It just seems like the 50-yard shots are not being taken as much.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a combination. I think they're just not going to put on a Brees as much, and I think that there's not that many receivers they have that can stretch the field like that. So who knows? They tend to surprise us. So we'll see what they do the next few weeks. But, it's definitely something to be looking at going ahead. Is
there what's kind of the feeling that you get from the team after that 49ers loss? Is it, hey, we played a really good team, put up 40, they put up a little bit more? Is it, I can't imagine there's any sort of sky is falling going on. What was sort of the mood of the team as they kind of got over that loss?
I mean, I think they were pretty mad. I think they're mad at themselves. I think they realized what they gave up by losing. Basically, I think they realized they just keep making too many mistakes that are fixable and that are going to lose some games. So they understand what they have to do to get better. But I definitely didn't see any silver linings Sunday night. Maybe a little bit more Monday morning when they'd calmed down, but I think that they think they're ready for a rematch, I think. They hope they play them again. That is my feeling.
Yeah, and I think everyone else hopes they play him again, too, because that was the best game in the regular season we've seen. Talking to Katherine Terrell from The Athletic. All right, moving forward now, one other injury note, what's the linebacker situation? You definitely would like to see those guys back. Saints were down 2 guys, and I think it hurt a ton against the Niners because the Niners used their backs and their tight ends so much. What's the status of those guys?
I would be pretty surprised to see A.J. Klein out or playing in the game this week. Would not be surprised to see Kiko Alonso back. I think A.J. Klein's injury might take a little longer. So hopefully they get at least one back this week. But I would be surprised to see both of them back. I think it's kind of a week-to-week thing. Speaking
of surprises, were you surprised how many 49er fans got in the building on Sunday?
I mean, they talked about it so much. Not really. I think if you're a Saints fan, that's kind of frustrating to see that many opposing fans in your building. But yeah, I mean, a lot of the lower bowl had Niners fans in it. So not as much as they kind of proclaimed they would have, but certainly a huge number. And I guess they should be proud they traveled that much.
Well,
but,
hey,
yeah.
Saints fans looking for extra Christmas.
Fan.
Yeah, Saints fans looking for a little extra Christmas money, right?
Maybe. I mean, everyone knows I went to LSU and I love LSU. And if I went to LSU game and, like, for example, saw that many Bama fans at a game, I'd be pretty annoyed. So it was a significant number for sure.
Last year, didn't Georgia bring a ton of fans to the LSU game in Baton Rouge? As I recall, I think that was the case.
I wasn't at that game. I don't remember, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, they play so rarely. They usually travel pretty well to each other's games. I mean, like I know LSU fans love going to Georgia. Everyone wishes they could go more. So it's not surprising if it's the other way. But, yeah, I would not be surprised if they brought a ton of fans. I mean, it's just that kind of, like, matchup where they don't play enough and they all want to go to each other's games. But you're probably right.
Katherine Terrell from The Athletic joining us. All right. What do you look for this Monday? Do you feel like it kind of looks like the Titans are on a roll coming up in a couple of weeks, but it sort of feels like the Saints might be able to go ahead and finish off 3-0 in this last stretch, get to 13-3, and then hope things fall the right way. The Packers lose a game so they can get that number 2 seed. Do you feel that there's any threat the last 3 weeks of the season?
I mean, definitely. I think that the Colts record might not be great, but they're still a good team. I think they're a good running team, which is a little troubling considering the state of their linebackers right now. I would not call this like a gimme win by any means, but I do think they'll win. I do think the Saints will beat the Titans. I know they've been playing well, but I still think they'll beat them. And then the Panthers, after firing their coach, are kind of out of it. So the Saints are perfectly capable of going 3-0 to finish the season. Maybe not as easy as people hope, but yeah, I mean, I think they match up well against the last 2 teams. The Colts are just the one that kind of makes me pause, just because I know they can run the ball okay. Actually, the Titans can too. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting, especially if they move that Titans game to prime time.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting thing to watch, no doubt about it. Katherine Terrell from The Athletic. Final thing, some injuries along the offensive line as well that we saw Teron Armstead back in. You even mentioned, I believe it was you that mentioned the amount of work that these guys put in off the field just to be able to go play is remarkable. Teron Armstead is a perfect example of that.
I mean, it really is. I looked at Teron and I said, no offense, I'm shocked to see you play so quickly. They got to laugh and said, yeah, me too. I mean, it just kind of shows you. I assume, this is me speculating, I assume they shot up his ankle or something to get him back in that game. And, I mean, short term, it's great. You get to play. But long term, you don't know what you're doing to your body. So just being around them, I guess I'm so, I don't know if impressed is the right word, but it may be impressed just by how they're able to do that, knowing, maybe they're putting their body on the line 3, 4, 5 months down the line after everything is done. So Armstead's been in a walking boot, but he seems like he'll be okay. And then on Pete, I think is coming back. Originally it was a 6-week window that puts them in line to maybe play next week. So they're getting their offensive line back. It's really just the defense now that's a huge question mark.
Yeah, well, and you hope that Niners game is a one-off, and that's just Kyle Shanahan scheming you up. I told a friend of mine, Katherine, I think the only way you beat the Niners is you give them a 28-3 lead, and then you're going to come back and win on them. So that's just me.
Yeah, I think. I don't know why I think this, but I think if they play the Niners again, it's going to be a completely different game. I think it won't be a shootout. I don't know why I think this. I just think 3-4 weeks from now, these teams are going to look very different. Injuries change things week to week, and I don't think because they lost the first game means they'll lose the second. I mean, look at last year. The Saints beat the Rams the first time. They didn't beat them the second time. So, who knows, but I would love for them to play again. I think to be another fantastic game, and I'm looking forward to it.
Speaking of, you mentioned the Rams. Obviously, the pass interference replay rule gets adopted because of that Rams-Saints game. I know Peyton doesn't want to talk about officiating. It continues to be a black eye seemingly every week for the Saints. I know the NFL's meeting right now, and they're talking about officiating. Among the media, the cognoscenti up there in the press box, does anybody seem to have any reasonable idea of how to fix what is a massive, massive problem right now for the NFL in officiating?
I don't think so. I think there's talk of full-time officials, but there's such a disconnect between the officials and the teams. I mean, it's kind of absurd, and I understand why the Saints are so frustrated. I mean, you have literally one guy looking at these replays, particularly of pass interference, and it almost just feels like the whole pass interference rule change was a farce. I mean, it hasn't changed anything.
Yeah.
So I don't have a solution. I really don't. But I wish there was more transparency. That's what I wish as someone who is a fan of football and someone who's a journalist that covers this game. That's all I want. I think that's all anyone wants is transparency and to know how these officials are graded and what are the consequences if you don't correctly officiate something. But unfortunately right now, it's in this limbo where people don't know the rules. I mean, look at this fake punt rule. No one knew that rule. Yeah. I didn't know that rule. Maybe I should have, but no one around me knew it. The fans don't know it.
Amazingly, Kevin Burkhardt knew it.
Frustrating.
The play-by-play guy for Fox, yeah. Kevin Burkhardt knew it, and I was shocked.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of felt silly. I'm like, maybe I should have known that, but I didn't. I'm glad someone did because I don't even think Traquan Smith I don't think Traquan Smith understood why I wasn't holding. That's what he didn't understand.
Well, that was what Peyton was. Peyton was doing the same thing. Right. Peyton was saying it was a hold, which it very clearly was. He was grabbing his shoulder pads and yanking him.
Right.
So it was very clearly a hold, and that's what Peyton was looking for.
And I hate when fans ask me, well, why wasn't it a hold? And I can't give them like a clear and correct answer at the time because sometimes I just don't know.
Yeah.
None of us do.
No.
I don't know why it wasn't a hold. I really don't. I have no one I've talked to understands it. So it's like I'm supposed to tell people what's the correct thing here, and I can't even do that. So that's all I want. I wish there was more transparency so we could explain it to the fans so they understand, but
yeah, we
maybe
need to
one
get
day. I guess that's the eternal hope.
we need to get the Alliance when the Alliance had their replay refs mic'd up, and you could hear when them go through the replay.
Right.
That's what we need. Let's mic these replay refs up, and let's actually hear what the heck they're talking about.
I totally agree. I would love that.
Yeah.
I'm all for learning more about how this game works and why officials do the things they do because I get it. It's a really tough job. I don't think there's any disputing that. All they ever get is criticism, and they're just doing the best they can. But if people understood their jobs more, I think maybe they'd be a little easier on them. And so,
yeah,
maybe one day we have full-time officials or something. But right now, it's tough. I mean, it's tough. I understand the fans have every right to be very, very frustrated when they feel like every call goes against their team.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Katherine Terrell, thank you so much, as always. Have fun this weekend. Do your best to try to stay out of trouble. Hope you don't run into bears anywhere in greater New Orleans.
I'm going to try, but I make no promises.
Yeah. Well,
you never know what's lurking there.
I know there's black bears and there's Rougarou running around New Orleans, so just be careful is all I'm saying. Appreciate your time, Katherine. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Katherine Terrell from The Athletic.